This is Mickey Quinn, the official announcer of today's Two Mics podcast.
How does a man judge whether or not another man is good looking or not?
How do you mean?
Well, because, you were talking about the uncoupling of...
Gwyneth and Chris.
And
you know who he plays for, don't you?
Coldplay,
that's it.
Right,
yeah.
now you said to me, they're one of the world's glamorous couples and all this kind of stuff. And I'm thinking, well, are they? Because I look at a picture of this guy and I see just a bloke, Now, I don't understand how people of the male gender can possibly describe other males as handsome.
I think you can look at certain men and say, that's a very attractive man. Like David Ginola, for example.
David Ginola is obviously a fine-looking guy.
Did you see that he was very appreciative of my breakfast the other morning?
No.
Well, you were kind of crawling up to him when you were doing the paper review on the sports breakfast.
You
were telling him about how you voted
David
for him.
and I have a mutual admiration.
No, it was really sickening to listen to.
No,
so
mutual
you were
admiration.
How much you had admired him as a footballer, how wonderful he was playing for Everton.
I voted for him.
And how you voted for him.
Yeah.
And he was incredulous that somebody like you even had a vote
What
to
do
make
you
him
mean?
Footballer of the Year.
Don't be ridiculous.
You can hear it in his voice. You can hear in his voice that he had no conception of what on earth somebody like you would have the right to do anything to do with his, his skill.
I'm a leading and long-standing member of the Football Writers Association. Now, the point is that David is obviously a striking...
You know right about football, as Mr. Brazil pointed out.
But I used to.
Well,
and I now broadcast on issues pertaining to football. Now, let me just tell you this. David is obviously a striking-looking individual, and we can tell that.
Well, surely you would say he is a very good-looking man. I mean, there's nothing wrong with saying that.
I don't describe other men as good-looking. I say, he's a striking-looking fellow or something like that. Right. I mean, for instance, the one that always gets me is that guy Cipriani, the rugby player.
Now, Danny Cipriani.
Eh?
Danny Cipriani.
Danny Cipriani.
Kelly Brook.
That's right, absolutely. Yeah. Now, she is one of the most beautiful women in the world. My favourite woman. If anybody said to me, you've got a choice of spending a weekend with any woman in the world, it would definitely be Kelly Brook, OK?
Yeah. They're not going to be saying that to you, though, anytime soon, are they?
Well, you never know.
Unless you win the lottery.
Unless you win the lottery, yeah. But anyway, look, the point of the story is, so she goes out with this guy Cipriani, and apparently Cipriani also has his choice of a lot of other young ladies who find him very attractive.
Well, that's because he's a sports star.
Yeah, but hang on, mate. To me, Cipriani is ugly. I mean, pug ugly.
Well, he's a rugby player.
Well, no, it's not that. But he looks to me like somebody has literally got the biggest frying pan in the world they could find and smashed him in the face with it. Because I think he's got a flat face. And I think he's a...
Well, that comes from playing rugby, probably.
Well, maybe. But, I mean, how can anybody describe him as good looking? And yet, when I speak to women, they say, he's a dreamboat and all that.
Well, there are some
what's
women...
a dreamboat?
Well, there are some women who see different things in different men. There are some women who like, guys who have got, beards. There are some women who like guys
I know all about that.
Chiseled.
I know all about that over the years.
Yeah, of course, yeah. It's done well for you, hasn't it?
Yeah, of course it does, yeah.
But, there's no candy for taste, but I think in the case of somebody like Ginola and in the case of, say, somebody like Johnny Depp, for example, universally people say these are very good-looking men. Paul Newman, for example, that we talked about, and Robert Redford. I mean, these are kind of heartthrob figures.
They do anything for me.
Well, of course they don't do anything for you.
No, what I mean
They're
is...
not supposed to do anything for you.
Look, what I mean is, don't do anything for me, I would like to look like, you know what I mean? That's what you would say to yourself. Or if I had my time over again...
I would never say anything like that. I would never want to say I want to look like anyone.
Who would you want to look like?
I want to look like me. That's what I want to look like.
Well, you've got very low ambition factor level in life.
No, not at all. I'm very happy with
my skin. Do
my
you know what you look like?
Well, I'm sure you're going to tell me.
Well, I mean, there's no need. There's no need, I mean, balloon face...
People think I look like Harry Redknapp.
Harry Redknapp. Balloon face was an expression invented for you. Believe me.
Really?
Believe me, yeah.
Well,
you've got a very flabby face, and I'm not saying that as a criticism.
You seem thanks for it as a compliment.
Or as
you're obsessed with
insult.
looks in some ways. I mean, which coming from you is hilarious in its way.
No.
Because
I've got a lifting face.
If you could put more care into your appearance, you might actually look quite distinguished.
I've got
unfortunately, you look like a tramp.
I thought we were talking about headlines.
Yeah, we are.
But
before you talk about how you can judge whether men are good looking, you can judge whether women are good looking. You've seen the pictures of Elle Macpherson on page 3 of the Daily Mirror.
Pretty
She's apparently 50 today, and she's known as, of course, the Body.
Yeah.
And her body is still in amazing condition. And from 2005 to now, from 1985 to now, I mean, she hardly looks any different.
Don't you think Joan Collins is an incredible woman as well? She's over 70 now, and she's still... every day puts on the old slap, glams herself up, because she's a real woman who wants to remind people, look, I have been one of the most beautiful women in the world. Sorry?
I don't think I'd want to see her in a bikini at this point.
No, I wouldn't really at this age. One of our former editors, Sir Nicholas Lloyd, he had a 50th birthday party, and it was on that ramp outside the Express that overlooks the river. You know the place I'm talking about? And Joan Collins came along, and she was taken by me, without a shadow of a doubt.
Was she?
And I've got a picture of two of us together.
Oh, right.
Yeah.
Maybe you could bring that in when you bring the Time magazine cover in.
The Time magazine cover. Mike, just before we get on to David Moyes, do you mind if I raise an issue which is even bigger than David Moyes?
Really?
In fact, it's bigger than anything else. Yeah.
All right.
As you
Must
know,
be big.
as you know, I'm a student of all things that are written in this country. I've just looked at tomorrow morning's newspapers, right?
This morning's newspapers.
This morning's newspapers. I'm sorry, because of course it's Friday.
It is.
We have a national emergency on our hands, and something has got to be done. The front page headline on the Daily Mail says 4 cat owners catch TB from their pet.
Right.
Home Counties outbreak is first recorded case. Now you could say the Daily Mail, bit right wing. Is it political? Well, hang on.
What,
Here's the Daily
political
Mirror. Here's the Daily Mirror.
How could it be political? It's about a cat.
Well, cats can be political because cats are seen to be the pets of the poor, impoverished working classes and older people, right?
No, they're not.
But here we
they
are.
They seem to be the pets of James Bond villains and people like that, multi-millionaires who'd like to stroke them on their knee.
Mostly it's old ladies like to have little cats curled up and sitting on their lap to keep them happy in their dotage. But the Daily Mirror, which you could describe as a left-wing newspaper, or certainly a left-wing, how you could catch TB from your cat. See page 15, it says the same sort of story. Now, I'm sorry, but I mean, this is more important than football, Mike, and let's face it, TalkSport's a very responsible radio station. Yeah. We have to bring these national emergencies to the attention of our millions of listeners.
But I hadn't heard of this until now. I mean, where's this story come from?
Well, I tell you what it's come from, because some diligent journalist has gone out and found out that cats have passed TB to humans for the first time in an outbreak feared to have been caused by badgers. It says that cats go out and fight with badgers, the badgers bite them, and then the cats get TB, and then the cats go home, they sit on the laps of their owners, and they give them TB, and people all over the country are falling down with TB.
Now, says 9 cats were infected in the home counties in a matter of weeks. 6 were put down or have died. 2 have survived, but 1, an 18-month-old tabby called Millhouse, has run away.
It's incredible.
So they've got a picture of this cat on the front of the Mail. It looks like any other cat. It doesn't look like a kitten to me.
This infected cat has gone missing, so we've got a crazy TB-infected cat.
Presumably they have to bite you, though. You can't just get it from have them sitting on your lap.
Of course you can, because the TB is caught by the expellation of breath in your mouth.
I see.
That's why
it's an airborne disease.
It's an airborne disease, and that's why people who got TB after the war were put in beds along the edge of the River Thames, out in the cold there, because if you put them in confined spaces, somebody in the bed next to them would get TB. This is a national emergency.
I'm very worked up about this.
Well, I'm sorry, but I mean,
I'm not at all bothered by it.
When human life is at threat, there's only one thing you can do, and that is we've got to organise a national cull of cats. Now, I know you say, well, that's a bit extreme.
That's very, very extreme.
Well, I'm sorry.
Because, I mean, look at the trouble that was caused when they wanted to organise a national cull of badgers. There was all kinds of hell to pay.
This is linked to the same thing.
Yeah.
But look, when we had that foot and mouth
outbreak... nobody's died here yet. The people have been infected with bovine tuberculosis. I mean, I don't know what that means.
Hang on, are you going to wait until the first human being coughs himself to death with blood pouring out of his lungs before we say we've got to do something about these TB-infested cats? TB-infected cats, not infested. And there's one mad cat who's running around in the home counties with TB, could give it to unknown numbers of people.
Millhouse. What's the name of the cat? That's the name of the cat.
Oh, that's the name of the cat. Yeah, that's right. Lost Millhouse.
We've got like a wanted poster on
after infected with TB. If you see Millhouse, you've got to capture that cat, but don't let it breathe on you because you get TB. Now, I'm not being unkind or cruel, but when there was foot and mouth disease, we had to kill millions of cattle because you don't know which cattle have got foot and mouth and which haven't. I'm afraid we've got to organise a national cull of cats. And I know
I think you're going to struggle to get anybody to allow you to do that.
Why?
Surely they can quarantine these cats in one area in the home counties that it seems to be happening.
Well, in the home counties is about 2/3 of the whole country anyway. So, and once this cat Millhouse goes running up the M1 and goes outside, the M25 and outside the home counties, then you've got a national plague and national disease. I'm sorry, I know people are thinking I'm getting excited about this or excitable. I'm not getting excited, not being excited about excitable. But the point is, this is a very serious situation, and I'm trying to be as measured about it as I possibly can.
So you just want to cull every cat in Britain?
Well,
doesn't sound very measured.
Well, listen, if you said, we'll capture every cat and test it for TB, and if it's OK, put it back out into its home and all that, I would agree with that. But somebody will say to you, that's a very expensive process. There aren't enough vets around to be able to do that. We'd have to get into a situation where actually, I mean, there's a lot of stray cats running around, Round all those up first, and I'm afraid you just got to gas them or something, because we can't
advocate that sort of stuff.
Well, look, I'm not advocating going around killing cats. What I'm saying is you've got to have a national campaign of public health...
Some kind of policy.
Of a public health issue where cats are spreading disease to humans. Any animal that spreads disease to humans has got to be stopped in one way or another.
Certainly,
it
is front page news, and I'm certainly not going to diminish it for you. They've got a question and answer session on the Daily Mail inside pages. Maybe we'll talk about that a little bit later. We can maybe give out some information. It says, am I at risk from my cat? Public Health England has classified the risk as, in quotes, very low but it has warned pet owners to look out for signs of infection in their cats. Maybe we should say what the signs are. Usually it's a chronic disease in cats. If your pet is infected, it may show signs of coughing, wheezing, or weight loss.
Well, you have all of that as well. Are you sure you haven't got TB?
Well, weight loss. You never accused me of that.
No, not weight
anyway,
loss,
listen.
Well, the coughing and the wheezing.
We'll find out a little bit more about that a little bit later on.
I went to the Olympiacos, Mike, for the European Cup final in 2000, and whenever it was, Man United lost to Barcelona.
Barcelona, yeah.
And I think it was the only time that Lionel Messi scored a headed goal.
Oh,
They
yeah.
won 2-0, I think.
Yeah.
And I was in there, and I mean, it's in a ridiculous location because as we went up to the stadium, I went.
Is it not like right in the middle of Rome then?
No. It's way outside of Rome, in the middle of a forest.
No.
And
forest?
Yeah, honestly.
Are you sure?
No, I'm certain. I'll tell you why. Because we went up there, right? And I went with old what's his name there, old Nick. What's his name out there?
Nick, what's his name?
You know,
NRP.
Yeah,
is his
that's
name.
right. Yeah. Well, we only know him as NRP. I know his first name's Nick. I don't know what the RMP stands for. But anyway, the point of the story is he's one of our,
So you went to a football match with him. You never found out his name.
No, don't be silly. He's one of our master technicians. Anyway, we
So
got.
he
to
was carrying all the stuff. In other words.
He was carrying the gear. And we get to, it's 2 hours before the game, and we get to the main approach to the stadium, and all of a sudden, this guy from the old Carabinieri with a machine gun.
Carabinieri.
Yeah, says, no, go through. I said, you know who I am, pal, TalkSport and all that. No. So anyway, he says you have to go round here. And I thought, well, it's a diversion of 100 yards.
Well, these are guys with a half a hat. We used to call them the half a hat
that's
guys.
right. Yeah. So he indicated I had to sort of go to a road to the left to get to where I wanted to go, which I could see was only about 20 yards behind this Carabinieri guy with his machine gun, Anyway, I ended up walking 1.5 miles around the edge of the forest. I'm not joking.
Forest?
You asked Nick. It was
Can't be in a forest.
In the end, I was clambering up trees and leaping from tree to tree. Honestly,
Well, like an orangutan.
a bit like
you didn't get shot.
No, seriously, because there are all these huge fences, and I was climbing up these trees and then leaping from one tree across the fence to another tree to try and get in. I then fell down a very steep cliff and tore all my trousers. No, I'm not joking, and bloodied my knees. And when I turned up, eventually got to the turnstile, they were debating whether to let me in or not.
Must have looked like you'd been taken hostage or something.
Yeah, I did, and they thought I was drunk, and I hadn't had a drink
No,
at
of course
all.
not.
But no, I hadn't. But
Not even a single Peroni.
I've been treated brutally by the landscape around the stadium,
Right.
trying to get in on time.
Well, what was everybody else doing?
Well, they were sort of.
Surely if that was a problem, you'd see a lot of other people trying to work their way through the
I
same
found out
path.
later the reason he wouldn't let us through was
Yeah.
because Mr. Berlusconi was
Oh, yes.
coming to the game, and he insists on the road being
Bunga,
closed.
bunga.
Yeah, he insists on the road being closed for an hour before he gets there
Yeah.
to keep away like protesters and terrorists and all kinds of stuff.
Right.
He also get this. He, like most people have a red carpet on which they step onto when they get out of their
Yeah.
car, walk at the main
Right.
entrance. Mr. Berlusconi has the whole road red carpeted, so his car drives in on a red
Brilliant.
carpet, right?
What a character.
And that's right. And then he gets out, and it's all got to be red carpeted for him.
Right.
And it takes an hour to do all that, so they have to close the road to the normal punters. So most of the people there were prepared to wait an hour. I wouldn't wait, so I had to go.
So you entered the stadium basically looked like a tramp.
I did. I did. And by the time I got in and sat down, there were a couple of people there who, knew who I was and thought that, they were going to call an ambulance. I looked so, because I scuffed on my face and everything, falling down this cliff to try and get in, honestly.
Unbelievable
Yeah.
stuff.
So here we are, Porky Parry making his debut on the turntables. I'm turning one way and one the other. Yes, this is me and music. What about that? The Porkmeister bringing you all the discs and the hits on Hospital Radio.
Something strange.
What on earth is this rubbish?
Well, hang on.
What on earth is this?
I don't know where you nicked that from. Excuse me, that's ridiculous.
Well, I haven't nicked it. It must be one of the guys behind the glass. What have you been doing?
Well,
What do you mean hospital? Is this from your dark and distant past when you did hospital radio?
No, I actually did that today. And
You did it today?
I did it today, and I did it because
You actually want to admit to that?
Well,
Are you
listen,
proud of that?
I know what you're going to
Well,
say now.
I
You're going
think
to
we
say
should have a listen to it. That is absolutely dreadful.
So
You're supposed to talk over the music up to the point where they start singing.
So now you're going to accuse me of actually finding my level, hospital radio,
Yeah.
aren't you? You're going to try
Well,
and take the mickey
it
and all that
did
kind
occur
of
to
stuff.
me,
Yeah, it did
actually,
occur
yeah.
to you. I'll tell you exactly what it is. Because I believe...
I mean, I know that you've got some time on your hands, but I mean,
No,
you
no.
really ought to be spending it a little bit more
No.
kind of,
No. I don't have time on my hands, mate. I don't have any time at all, and this is why I feel that I've done my debt to society. I believe in giving something back, Mike. Unlike you know, who doesn't think about giving something back.
I give something back all the time.
I believe that I've had a fortuitous life.
I gave you back that 100 quid you loaned me.
I've been lucky enough.
By the way, which you haven't mentioned.
Eventually, I believe that I've been fortuitous, had a lucky life, been delighted to be involved in the broadcasting industry. Great to
and such an expert at it you are. Can we please hear that again, please? We've got to hear it again.
What's going on here?
You know, right? Here's what you normally do. You're supposed to talk over the start of the song. You can introduce it if you wish.
I'm not a music radio DJ.
We can tell.
What do you mean you can tell? It's a bit harsh. So here we are, Porky Parry making his debut on the turntable.
And it'll be the last shift you ever do, I think, as well.
One the other. Yes, this is me and music. What about that? The Porkmeister bringing you all the discs and the hits on Hospital Radio.
They've started singing now.
Yeah, I know they started singing, but that was... Look, I'll tell you what I was doing, right? I believe in giving something back, OK?
I don't think they'll be asking you back. I think that'll be the main thing.
So, excuse me. So there is university down in Surrey. They have a media course.
Oh, yeah.
They contacted me and sauld I be prepared to come and lecture their students? Because
really?
I have...
Well, you went and made a lecture as well.
Of course I did.
I'd love to have heard. Why don't you tell me about this?
Well, why should I?
Well, because I might have wanted to come along and listen.
Because I get this sort of response. I get this sort of numbskull, empty-headed response. What are you doing? So I go down and I say, right, OK, kids, I said, I'm in speech radio. I said, but actually, on one occasion, during a show I was doing with Andy Townsend, I said, Ray Parker Jr., who wrote Ghostbusters, came in and I duetted with him in the studio. And they said, oh, that's fantastic. They said, look...
Have they heard of him then?
Of course they've heard of him, because it's one of the most famous songs of all time. It's one of the most famous film scores
but, I mean,
of all
most
time.
young people wouldn't know who he was.
Oh, no, this lot loved it. And by the way, one of the reasons they, without blowing our own trumpets, one of the reasons they contacted me was they are avid followers of our podcast from this show. Yes, absolutely.
Well, why didn't they ask me then?
Well, because they thought that actually the greater influence on what they were really interested in was me rather than you.
This is why you didn't tell me what you were up to today. I wondered if you got a bit quiet.
So anyway, so I go down and I did a talk with them, and then
you sneaked off on your own.
I did an hour-long interview for them because they have to present that to their assessors to see if they've got it right, as a group and all that kind of stuff.
Because you've talked about this before. You like being interviewed by people whose names you forget.
No,
you remember you were you were talking about some local journalist that interviewed you once, and you couldn't remember why you'd said whatever your favourite moment in history was.
At the end, they invited me and said, Mike, would you like to go on the turntables? Because the show they put out on... And
they've still got turntables, have they?
It's called Red Hill Radio, because it's down in Red Hill, and it's attached. It's attached to the East Surrey Hospital, right? And it's piped out to the patients who are... Some of these patients are critical, they're injured, they're ill, they're in pain, but they've now got the Porkmeister's voice to...
Well, that's not going to help them, is it?
To bathe...
That is painful. That is the most painful introduction to a song I've ever heard.
To bathe their, their furrowed brows and all that, they listen to me introducing...
God help them.
Ray Parker Jr. And so I said, yeah, sure, I'll have a go and do it. And actually, they thought I was rather good.
Did they?
Yeah.
They've got a lot to learn, obviously. So what sort of questions did they ask you then?
Oh, things like, how did you start in it? And I said, well, I was very lucky to have due discipline.
No, don't tell me the whole interview. Tell me something interesting.
You just asked me. I've just told you.
What sorts of things? I don't want your answer. I just mean, what did they ask you?
They asked me, what sort of stories you recovered during your life, and I told them about the Libyan experience.
Don't give me the answers, just what the questions were. What else? What else did they ask you about?
Well, they asked me how I transferred into radio.
Okay.
What was the most dramatic day we've done on radio?
Yeah.
I said, well, that was when the Twin Towers went, and we did 7 continuous hours.
Yeah, okay. I don't want the answers.
Just
the questions.
If I give you the questions, I've got to give you the answers,
haven't
I?
No.
Well, what do
I just want to know what they asked you.
What
point normally they ask you something, and I'm looking. I'm
They've
basically
asked me all those things.
No, because what I'm looking for is some little gem that you may have told me. So far, I don't want to hear anything.
One of the girls there, was called Catherine.
Yeah.
And I think she's 22. Get this, Mike. She is an Oxford graduate in, guess what?
What?
Anthropology.
Really?
How about that?
That's interesting.
How about going to Oxford University and say anthropology?
Yeah.
So she's going to be...
study of man.
She's going to be the female version of Indiana Jones. Because she'll go round the world...
He's an archaeologist.
Yeah, well, same thing.
No, it's not the same thing. Anthropology and archaeology are completely separate.
It's not. Archaeologists go around looking at old buildings, and anthropologists
relics as well.
Anthropologists go around trying to find old people.
Don't try and find old people at all.
Old races. I don't mean old people. I mean... Sorry, I mean...
They do not.
They do.
No,
They
I
do.
think you
They
haven't
go
quite
around-
grasped the study of man.
They go around
they look
studying
into-
things like the Incas, who
No,
don't exist
no,
anymore,
but they also-
are old people, aren't they?
Well, they're not old people.
Well, I mean, they're old
they're
races.
people from an older
Old
time.
tribe, yeah.
They weren't all old. In
Well,
fact,
they're
they
old.
didn't get to much of a very old age because most of them got sacrificed.
They're old tribes. What were the other lot in South America called? There was the Incas.
The
or
Aztecs.
The Aztecs, that's right, yeah. And they study them and all. That's what she's going to do. She's going.
Well, what's she doing a hospital radio course then?
Well, because she, after finishing at Oxford University in
Yeah.
anthropology, she wanted to try her hand in media. And I said, I'll come down and help out and all that kind of stuff. And eventually, she could, in fact, become a great TV star, couldn't she? I mean, she could go and look at the old pyramids and do a piece on Tutankhamun. Because
She's not an archaeologist.
But she's an anthropologist.
It's not the same.
And Tutankhamun was buried in a pyramid. So she's got she's got to get into. What are you on
He
about?
was buried in a pyramid. He wasn't
was.
buried in it, was he?
So she's got to get into the pyramid first, Indiana Jones style, before she can examine
Deary me.
Tutankhamun's grave.
Deary me.
I mean,
They
that's
must
what-
have had a great laugh with you.
That's what
we were just trying to
anthropologists
unearth some more of your old records. You know, the DJ Porkmeister. Let's talk about. He's not a New Yorker because he's from Las Vegas originally. Andre Agassi.
Yeah.
You've unearthed a fascinating story
It's
about him.
it's absolutely incredible. I came across this and I couldn't believe it right. Now, Andre Agassi won 8 Grand Slam titles
Yeah.
in tennis. Even though, actually, I never thought he was a great player. He always looked a bit slow and laboured to me, you know what I mean? He wasn't...
Well, he
wasn't-
was somebody that had a lot of heart, wasn't he?
He didn't have the
he
purpose.
he was at the top of his game for quite a few years.
He didn't have the purpose and the power of a sort of, a Roger Federer or, the modern sort of players who he couldn't live with, I'm sure.
Or Sampras.
Or Sampras, absolutely right. Or even, before him, McEnroe, and people like that. Nevertheless, he won them through slow deliberation. In those days, he used to wear a ponytail. He won Wimbledon, of course, so he's always welcome in the Hall of Fame at Wimbledon. He can go for lunch there. If you win Wimbledon, you can go for lunch at Wimbledon, which is great, isn't it? And all that. Now, he's
Have
married
you ever
to-
had lunch there?
At Wimbledon?
At Wimbledon.
Well, I've been to the women's final and I've had the strawberries and cream
Have you?
and all that. Yeah.
Did you not send your entire family there one year?
I'd sent every woman member of my family there,
Right.
yes, and 4 of them to the women's
But you
final.
didn't go?
I didn't go. It cost me £16,000.
What?
They went to the top package that you get on the day.
Right.
You like...
It's a bit extravagant, isn't it?
Yeah, it was lunch and all-day bar, which suited my sister in particular. Top seats in the...
great.
Did
she have to be carried out on a stretcher?
No. Top seats in the centre court, cars there and back and all that. It was a great day out. But anyway, point of my story is, so he's got 8. Now, we've just done our research. He's married to Steffi Graf.
Yeah.
According to our researcher here, she's won 22 Grand Slams.
Yeah.
That's an enormous number of Grand Slams.
That's a lot.
You'd have to win 4 a year for 5.5 years to get that number, but maybe she was around for 10 years.
Well,
won
she
2
was
a year.
around for a long time.
Okay,
yeah.
so that's 30 between them,
She
okay?
was world number 1 for longer than he was ever world number 1.
Yeah, she was, yeah.
So they've
that's
got 30 Grand Slams
30 Grand
between them.
Slams, right?
Yeah.
Now, incredible. They must be the most successful sporting couple in the world. However, they noticed that their daughter growing up shows a little bit of aptitude and potential as a tennis player.
Right.
So they do what you would do. They go and hire a tennis coach.
They hire a tennis coach?
They hire a tennis coach. So this tennis coach turns up at this magnificent spread they've got in Las Vegas, with 6 magnificent courts, which they practice on themselves.
Right.
And this tennis coach has got to show the daughter how to play tennis, whilst mum and dad, who are Andre Agassi and...
Agassi.
Eh?
Agassi.
Andre Agassi.
Agassi.
Yeah. And I've forgotten his wife's
Steffi
name.
Graf.
And Steffi Graf, that's right, yeah.
Yeah.
I was sitting there...
It's not easy, this business, is it?
It's
A
not.
lot of things to
sitting
remember.
There, sitting there watching this coach trying to teach their daughter how to play tennis. I mean, could you imagine
It
being
seems a
that...
bit odd, doesn't it? 'Cause it's not as if they've got that much else to do, presumably. I mean, they've
Well,
got enough
I don't
money,
know.
they don't have to work.
I don't know. So you can see this coach, every time he's sort of saying to this young girl, the daughter of, this is how you serve a ball. Do you suppose this Steffi Graf thinks, no, actually, that's not the right way to serve a ball. You should be doing it this way. Or,
Well, I suppose they're so rich. Apparently, their career earnings between them is about 55 million quid, right?
yeah.
So, I mean, you just build on
Conservatively,
that.
I would imagine, yeah.
With the investments and things, probably
But-
another few hundred. I suppose if you're that wealthy, you don't actually do anything yourself. You
No,
say, right,
no.
we'll hire a tennis coach,
Well,
we'll
no.
hire a nanny,
No.
We'll hire a cook,
No.
we'll hire a chief bottle washer, we'll have a maitre
No,
d'
no.
at the door.
No, it's more basic than that, Mike.
Right.
It's more basic than that. Now, just recently, you've been teaching your partner in life how to drive again, haven't you?
No.
Yes, you have.
No, I haven't.
Yes, you have.
What are you talking about?
You're thinking of buying a Range Rover.
A Land Rover.
Yeah, so you went and got yourself a demonstration
Yeah.
model, and your quote wife.
Well, because she's a bit
partner,
frightened of it.
whatever. Well, so you've been teaching her how to drive again,
I've
haven't
been
you?
teaching her how to drive. I've
You've been
just told
sitting
her
in the
to come
passenger
drive-
seat how to drive
Go
again.
drive a Land Rover and see how it feels.
As
if
a
you like
result
it.
of which, you've had several rows because the pressure of you saying to
Not
her
at all.
she's no good at doing something
No.
has got to her, and she's slapped you across the face and
Rubbish. Where are you getting all this from?
Hang on, no tea tonight for you and all that kind of stuff. Yeah,
Absolute nonsense.
No. I know this goes on. Right. So what I'm saying is, you can imagine the Agassiz and
Agassi.
and Stephanie.
Is it Stephanie Graff?
Stephanie Graff, right?
Yeah.
Steffi Graff. Sorry,
Steffi Graff,
Graff.
yeah.
Yeah,
She's
You
German, by the way.
I know that. You can imagine that if they started trying to teach their daughter how to play tennis, and she suddenly wasn't up to it, or she turned round and said, I can't do it, Daddy, I can't do it, Mummy, it might cause family friction. So you have to say that Agassi and Graff,
got a real problem with these two things, haven't you?
are in fact great parents because they've decided to remove themselves one away from the teaching of
Well,
their
they do say
daughter's
that. I mean,
tennis.
if you-
So
they do say-
I think you should take their hats off to them and say these are wonderful people.
Yeah, if only you could
Instead of
remember their
others-
names.
Sorry?
If only you could remember their names.
Look, that's irrelevant. The thing is, I'm talking here about a human conditioning story, and I think it's a wonderful thing.
Here's another point of order on your rather dim historical recollection of events. Alan has texted in, and he's obviously been in the armed forces. He says the F-111 attack on Tripoli was launched from a US Air Force base in England, Lakenheath, I believe. I think he's correct. And he said F-111s never flew from aircraft carriers.
All I can say to that is that I know the planes came from Lakenheath because I was pretending to be American while this attack was going on. No, I was. I started talking with a Texas accent, No, hang on, I've got the other way around. Sorry.
You're unbelievable.
I know.
How anybody ever read any of your copy from any of these places and thought that it was genuine? It's astonishing.
I made it absolutely clear that I was English while the attack was taking place because it was clearly American planes were attacking
Well,
me.
you wouldn't have to pretend, would you, since you are English?
No, exactly. But
How did you make it clear? Did you start reciting Shakespeare?
No, I improved my accent and said, this is terrible, look at what's happening here, these damned Yankees and all this. And then, unfortunately, some guy runs into the room,
I thought you'd come back in a TARDIS or something like that.
No. Some guy runs into the room looking terribly agitated and he goes,
Did you do that toothpaste thing of yours? With the mouthwash?
No, I'm not being rude, but he was talking Arabic, which I don't understand.
What was he talking?
Arabic.
Arabic?
Yeah.
You mean Arabic?
Yeah, exactly. And then the whole mood changed, and the crowd outside, who previously had been chanting, down, down, USA, down, every day. As soon as this guy came in and gave us the old Arabic, we went outside and told the crowd.
Arabic?
Yeah. All of a sudden, the crowd stopped chanting down, USA, and started chanting, down, Thatcher, down,
Yeah,
Thatcher.
because they worked out where the planes were coming
Because
from.
this guy had run in the room and said the planes come from Lakenheath in Cambridgeshire. It's in England.
And they all knew that very well, no
They're
doubt.
not American after all. So then I started talking with an Irish accent because I just thought, they were going around looking for English people to sort of, have a go at.
Yeah.
So I started talking like that then.
Sorry, you sounded Irish.
Sorry.
That's by the way, that's from your experiment with the toothpaste
Yeah, I
last
know.
week when you said that
Yeah.
you mixed the toothpaste in with the mouthwash. A guy actually texted me earlier on in the week to say that you tried it. You thought it worked very well.
A few of them have tried it. It's called the tumble dry tooth effect. And, that's right. Well, you do.
I think you might make clips of the week with that one.
The reason you do that is to stop rubbing the enamel off your teeth with a toothbrush.
Yeah,
It's
well, we've
much
already
easier.
told that story. Now,
Okay.
tell us about this pub theory you've got, because
Well, look.
obviously the weekend's coming up,
Yeah.
and a lot of people are going to be going to the pub to watch the game, whichever game they're interested in. Obviously, they can listen on TalkSport to the two big games, which is Arsenal, Manchester City, and Fulham,
Yeah.
Everton.
I think-
fourth place games, those are, in my view.
I think pubs are doing themselves in
Right.
because they got it all wrong. I see loads of miserable people who go into pubs, they buy like one pint.
Well,
they
they
stay,
look miserable when they see you coming.
Yeah,
Because
well,
they know all you're going to do is complain about people trying to get coffee and people who are paying
right.
with debit cards
That's
in
right.
front of you.
That's right.
You're a bit of a miserable old git when it comes
wasting
to
everybody's
pubs.
time in a pub, by buying coffee. Go to a coffee shop. There's plenty of them around. Anyway, point of the story is these guys come in and they will buy one pint, stay for an hour. I mean, they're almost spitting it back into the glass. They just want the
Nice image.
the warmth,
This time of the morning.
the warmth and the comfort of a pub. But they don't really want to, and they sit there reading their paper or something like that. And more particularly, the way that landlords are doing themselves in is if they're showing a live game and they're paying, the massive fees you have to pay to Sky and BT to televise these things. These guys come in and they literally stand there and they will drink one pint during the 2 hours that the game's on. With all the prelims and the post match and all that. And
Well, it's a free country, isn't it?
And I think it's got to come to the stage where what you should do is you should charge people table rent. You should say, you want that table for 2 hours? Right, it's £5 an hour, that's £10.
They do a bit of this in France, don't they? Because I remember getting caught by this once in a while in France.
Oh,
where
yeah?
You go into a bar or a cafe where there are many, but if you stand at the bar, the drinks are cheaper than if you sit down.
Right.
If you sit down at a table, you pay more.
Is that right?
Yeah.
And also...
How about that kind of system?
A bit too complicated, that. I would just charge people time in the pub. Like,
What, you mean like an hourly rate?
Yeah, that's right. An hourly rate for being in the pub and using the heat and the light
you'd
and
be
the space
bankrupt.
and all that. No, you wouldn't.
No, you would be.
No, well, no, I wouldn't.
You're always in the pub.
And no. And the other thing I would do is, if I was showing live football like that, I would charge a nominal sum on the door, like £2 or something like that.
People wouldn't go then.
Well, they would if every pub charged it, because you see, I'm not trying to put up the cost of drinking.
Why are you make it more expensive for football fans to watch football? It's expensive enough. Isn't
No,
it?
but I can afford it because I am lucky enough to have a decent position in life, okay?
Eh?
So I try to keep out the bums who go in there, drink 1 pint, crowd the pub out and obscure my view to the screen.
You're so selfish.
So I'd like,
But it's not
as
about
far as
whether
I'm
you can
concerned,
afford
they
to
can stay
pay.
on the street and look through the windows.
Yeah, you've told me before that you never wore green in your life because you
No.
think that somehow green doesn't go with your eyes.
Well,
and instead you always wear blue.
No, it's the other way around.
What?
It's the other way around. I learnt from early on that the best fashion experts always wear clothes the same colour as their eyes, okay?
they?
Yes, because that's what mesmerises women.
Well, you don't wear red ones.
That'd be ridiculous. So Paul Newman, for instance...
Did you see that picture of Elton John, by the way, today?
No.
He was for the first time spotted in some boutique in Beverly Hills without his tinted glasses on. And his eyes literally look like, craters in the snow.
So what are you
For want
saying?
of a better word. I'm just saying that's the first time I've really seen
you
Elton
need
John's
some
eyes.
more sleep, you think?
Well, he just looked... His eyes are kind of really red and bulging and, it's very odd looking.
He always seems to be playing concerts around the world somewhere, doesn't he? He works very hard.
Yeah.
Anyway, point is, I learned that Paul Newman always wore blue because he had absolutely... wonderful blue, royal blue eyes.
Yeah.
Not royal blue, what's the colour I'm looking for? Some sort of blue, anyway. Really blue eyes.
It's almost like aquamarine, his eyes.
Aquamarine are a sort of blue
I
eyes.
interviewed him once, and I couldn't work out. People always say how tall Paul Newman is
Yeah.
or how short he is. And I couldn't work out how tall he was at all, because I didn't know. He appeared to be... He was wearing cowboy boots, which have got a sort of a slight heel.
Where was this?
This was in New York years ago. It was a movie he was bringing out. It was
Right.
it was a movie about the stripper down in New Orleans who had the affair with the politician. I can't remember what it was called now. But anyway, it was back
Not
in...
the monkey business boat.
No. That was Burt Reynolds, the Monkey
okay.
Business Boat.
Right.
I broke into that once.
Right, okay.
Anyway, obviously found something else.
Right, here we go. Now
You
then.
found it?
Yeah. Search for the... former... No, that's the tower. That's not Tripoli. Sorry, that's no. I've just been given a
Isn't it
picture
gonna go
here
through every
of the
single
front of
Time
Time
magazine cover?
I tell you what it is, Dave. There's a crater and there's people standing around it. And if you find the date of the first strike on Tripoli by the Americans off the carriers in the Med. And it was in retaliation for blowing up the
Yeah.
German nightclub.
Well, that's
But
the
anyway-
date of the same thing. Anyway,
Yeah.
well, that's enough about Libya, all right?
Right, okay.
And so Paul Newman, and when he stood up, he was exactly the same height as me, right? And he's rumoured to be something like 5'4" or 5.
And what are you?
I'm about 5'10" and a half, 5'11".
Really?
Yeah. Yeah, I know it's hard for you to judge.
No,
'cause I'm that much taller than you.
it's just that you have so much bulk. It's difficult to...
No, it's nothing to do with that. But I was always slightly puzzled by that meeting because I always thought, well, maybe he is the same height as me, and all this talk of him being small isn't true. Because whenever you see like Sylvester Stallone, he really is tiny.
Yeah.
Tom Cruise really is tiny.
And Robert Redford.
Bruce Willis. I haven't ever met him.
Well, no, this is... You see, I don't know what you're talking about Paul Newman being short for. Paul Newman was always known as being tall.
No, he was always known as being short.
No, he wasn't. Robert Redford. Butch Cassidy and the Sundance Kid.
Yeah.
Robert Redford was small and Paul Newman was tall. That's the way
Well,
it
they're the
always
same
went.
height in the film.
Well, they must have, magically sort of equated them or something like that for whatever reason. I don't know. But Robert Redford is small and Paul Newman is tall. Did you never see the film Road to Perdition?
Yes.
Which was the last film he made, I
Yeah.
think, right? And he was the sort of
With Tom Hanks.
Yeah, that's right, Mr. Big and all that. I mean, he was tall in that. He was big, tall bloke in there. He towered over all the gunmen and all that kind of stuff. He's a tall man.
Right. Well, I'm
But I
being
mean,
told
if you couldn't
by
work out...
our research department that Paul Newman's an inch shorter than the other guy.
Robert Redford?
Yeah.
Rubbish.
Well, that's what I'm being told.
That's a nonsense.
Anyway, it's a mystery to
Somebody's
me.
got their facts wrong
I
again.
think he might have had heels in the inside of his shoes.
Whereabouts in New York did you
He
interview?
was in a hotel.
Which
it was
one?
one of those junkets. you
Which
know?
one? Which one?
I can't remember. It was like 25, 30 years ago.
Dear me, I don't know.
was a long time ago.
If I'd interviewed somebody like Paul Newman, like, you know, I interviewed Chris
Yeah,
Evans,
but it
the
was one of
tennis
these
player.
junkets. You get to sit with him for like 10, 15 minutes.
Yeah, but I'm
It's like when we did Will Ferrell. Do you remember when we did Will Ferrell?
Yeah.
And you didn't know who he was.
Well, that's not
And then
quite
you didn't
true.
remember the plot of the movie either
Well,
because
no,
you hadn't
that's-
watched the movie.
No, well, of course I hadn't watched the movie. I can't go and watch every American movie that comes out in London
Yeah, but
2 days.
you had the opportunity the night before we interviewed him to go to a screening and you opted not to do so.
I didn't opt not to do so. The screening never took place, if you remember. We went along.
No, it did. I went to it.
No, I think I went to the wrong theatre or something. I think whatever happened, I don't know.
Anyway, so tell us about this colour thing, this theory of yours.
Well, yeah, you see, so my eyes are sort of greeny browny.
Are they?
And I don't like wearing greeny browny clothes. It doesn't work. So
You're wearing a brown shirt.
No, I'm not.
What colour's that then?
This is black and grey.
No, it's not. It's
Black.
brown.
It's not. It's black and grey
I'm
stripes.
going to have to send it out on social media. It's a brown shirt.
No, don't be ridiculous. That's just the lights in the studio.
No, it's
if I
definitely
turn the
brown.
lights up, you'll find out it's black and grey.
Please don't turn the lights up. I
It's
don't think I
black
can
and
stand
grey.
it.
I'm going to turn the lights up if you're taking a picture. Excuse me a second.
No, don't. No, stay where you are.
No, because that's not fair. Because
It's got a flash on it.
yeah, but there's red lights in this studio.
So what?
Have you taken this picture yet?
No.
Well, you know, if you want to take it and send it out, that's fine. But I'm telling you,
It is brown.
it is not.
Ben's here. What colour is his shirt?
I don't want to be drawn into this. It's I don't really know. It's green, brown.
It's black
It's
and
greeny
grey.
brown. Yeah, thank you.
It's greeny brown.
Excuse me, I'm
Isn't it?
going to turn the lights up. Hang on.
Greeny brown. Why you go? He's going now. For heaven's sake. I'm gonna. You know. Yeah. No, it's definitely greeny brown. It's definitely greeny brown. Those lights are making
colour
you,
is it, mate?
making you. Your face looks red now.
What colour is it?
Your face looks red. It's brown.
It's black and grey stripes. Black with grey. Sorry, grey with black and white stripes. You can tell it is. I wouldn't wear any greeny brown. Right, put the light out.
Well,
now.
anyway, so why are you wearing something grey if you're supposed to wear the same colour as your eyes? Your eyes aren't grey.
I like colour clashes.
You just said you wear the same coloured stuff as your eyes.
Hang on, got the wrong switch.
What are you doing?
I can't wear the same coloured stuff as my eyes because my eyes are brown and green. I look silly in brown and green.
You look
anyway,
silly, whatever you wear.
Anyway, you weren't walking through a forest in brown and green, you'd get lost, wouldn't you?
Yeah.
I'm Mickey Quinn, and that was the Two Mics on TalkSport.